Welcome Libra to in-depth monthly forecasts for March 2025. There's two big themes: relationships and practicalities and obligations. The month begins with the obligations to the fore, particularly if you've got planets towards the end of the sign of Libra, because the collective between Mercury, Neptune and the North Node are gathering in the last degrees of Pisces suggests that there's part of you, if you do have those late influences, that may want to help a situation and do your best. It could be around a job, it could be around a voluntary role, but it's important that your boundaries work for you this month. And that's where the story starts to feed into the relationship dimension, because your ruler, Venus, is in your opposite sign as you start this month, and it's in a fantastic link to Jupiter, the planet of fortune. Of course, Venus is also a planet of good luck, the lesser benefit. So the two are collaborating as you go into this month. What's not to like? Well, it's that Venus is in detriment, but also from the second in retrograde. But if there is someone that you do feel respects how much you put into a situation, understands the commitment that you've shown, how hard you work, and there is a clear respect for that, some kind of binding relationship, despite Venus's retrograde, could shape up at the start of this month, because Mercury, the planet of communication, joins up with the sultry Venus on the 3rd in your opposite sign. When Mercury's going through the 6th house, and particularly when it's tangled with Saturn, it may have created quite a lot of stress, some brittle, tense energies. But in the 7th house, what it does is enables you to showcase one of your great talents, and that is for discussion and having a two-way rapport. And Mercury in the 7th house can also help us to look beyond the details, the 6th house of Pisces, where we find differences more irritating, to accept that, well, it's okay for people to see things differently to me, as long as they hear where I'm coming from, because that's a very Libran energy. Mercury is about how we think, and it's also how we speak, but it can be about precision as well. So I feel that Venus is retrograde through to the 13th of April is undoubtedly going to see you thinking carefully about relationships. But it's not the only hit on Venus this month. Venus's influence on March is huge. So by the 11th, Mercury and Venus come together in an exact relationship. If you're fortunate enough to have that situation where you do feel seen, heard, appreciated, that could be a magical moment, perhaps for a date as much as a business relationship. But we also have a big slice of reality which kicks in on the 12th, because in week 2 of this month, Libra, the energies of Saturn are joined by the energies of the Sun. If we think that the Sun's at the heart of our existence and Saturn's very much about limitation, the energies of the Sun can be dampened. If you are someone who tends to be very conscientious, and you are working in a situation where no amount of diplomacy on your part is making any difference to however anyone feels about you, and you don't feel very seen or appreciated, that combination between the Sun and Saturn could see you feeling quite dispirited and actually a bit washed out energy-wise. And that's because what happens then is that on the 14th, we have the second of an eclipse series featuring the two signs of Pisces and Virgo. If you recall, on the 18th of September last year, it was in the sign of Pisces. This one is in the sign of Virgo, but that cold energy of Saturn is applying to the Sun and opposing the Moon. If you work in a situation where there is office politics, where there is a lot of expectation to get a lot from you, but not for a lot of reward, with Mercury turning retrograde on the 15th through to April the 7th, that could see you rethink any kind of relationship where you feel there is more give than get. But on the 20th, we do have the start of the new astrological year and the first cardinal quadrant, first 13-week period of the year. Western tropical is predicated on seasons, but this particular event, with the sun returning to your 7th house, great for you setting your boundaries, but also having a more passionate interaction with others. The key is that the retreating Venus is very close to the sun. So that could glow up your relationship prospects for the following 13 weeks. Despite the retrograde, it just may mean that there's a rethink or a resetting in the process, because we know that Mercury retrogrades can cause cross wires. I think this one could do that. The key is being very intent and clear about what you want from situations and what you're prepared to give. Now in week 3, you do get a chance to be actually extremely decisive, because Mars moved into your 10th house of authority on the 4th of September last year, but it moved forwards in early November last year into your sector of the collective, sociability, friendships, but then of course it went into the retrograde on the 6th of December, returned to your sector of work, responsibility, obligation, but ambition and success on the 6th of January through to the 24th of February. And that probably created a lot of frustration around work. So the fact that Mercury is in retrograde suggests, along with Mars forging such a dynamic link with Uranus, the planet which is the disruptor of the zodiac, could see you seize an opportunity around a business situation that maybe is revisiting something that's been discussed before. And that is because of Mercury retrograde. Ironically, also on the 27th, Venus returns back into your 6th house. You may need to make some concessions, be a bit more practically considerate. I'm not saying you aren't, around work relationships. But on the 29th, we have a solar eclipse, the last in a series between your sign and Aries, but that is very close to Neptune. Neptune just in the sign of Pisces at this stage is a shimmering energy. There could have been times when all the hard work and input that you've put in since 2012 with Neptune in the sign of Pisces, and in 2012 aligning with the North Node, which is being repeated, when you have gained a lot of gratification from doing a good job well. But I rest my case, if you're in a situation where you don't feel appreciated, or it's very hostile or bitchy, not very easygoing, all your goodwill, which is a key part of the way you like to do things, will count for absolutely nothing if you don't feel the fundamentals, the practical part of your situation is working. And that's emphasised with Mercury joining with Venus in returning back into your 6th house. So you could find yourself having some very key discussions this month, but they don't turn out to be binding, and there may be more details that need to be picked over. But that solar eclipse does suggest for the 6 months from the 29th, something could change around your relationships, but it may be shimmering, it may move around. It may seem that it's there, but then it's out of reach because of Neptune. Then on the 30th, not only does Mercury invert back into Pisces, your 6th house, practicalities, Neptune takes that step forward for 8 months into your 7th house. And the uncertainty around relationships, or the potential for a magical connection, are almost polar opposite, but also very possible. It just depends, as usual, on your unique circumstances, your approach, and your personal natal chart. So to distill this all down, relationships can be a big part of the opportunity this month, but the detail is going to be massively important too. And if there is some snags which you find hard to get beyond, that Saturn Cazimi on the 12th is huge. And the fact that Mercury and Venus are in retrograde suggests You may have to look at situations again or be flexible, or you may find that another person keeps, as you see it, moving the proverbial goalposts. It's been a pleasure being with you, Libra. If you've yet to check out my new website, please go to www.patrickarundell.com. You can grab yourself my special offer of your combination reports of your life roadmap report, the most important document anyone could ever read, that helps us to understand the patterns that are played out in our existence so far, but also your 12 months transit report as well. And there's 30% off. Each of these is totally unique to the person it's produced for. If you don't know your time, you can have my solar option. If you prefer to have whole sign, you can choose that. Or if you'd like to check out your draconic possibilities, your soul chart, you can also get any of those 30% off too. Please see the link below for more.